In its short time as a promotion, AEW has done its best to maintain a balance of signing new, incoming, ready-made, and well-established names, along with lesser-known wrestlers that can be molded and made as AEW guys. While a lot of the ready-made stars came in after the company was well established, the inception of the company was predominantly made up of lesser-known professional wrestlers on the mainstream stage, with a sprinkling in of more recognizable names like Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley. A lot of the early rhetoric was not about AEW guys and former WWE guys. People weren't really keeping count of who was being put over more and if there was a tendency to favor one or the other. But as the new signings came on board and less of the AEW originals were being showcased, for good reason might I add, fans began to identify who the AEW guys were and which one of them were still being pushed as main attractions. One of these wrestlers that took on the mantle and who filled in all the prerequisites to fly the AEW banner was Hangman Adam Page. That's not to say that Hangman hadn't been in other promotions. He had done work with New Japan Pro Wrestling and ROH in the past. He wasn't 100% homegrown, but he was establishing his name as a proper top guy in AEW. Naturally, the AEW fans saw him as their guy, and it was clear from the start that Hangman had a long-term plan and a long-term story that was to be told. His story centered around his relationship with the Elite, specifically with Kenny Omega, and the developing fractions that friendship was forming. We saw him at his lowest depths of the abyss, an alcoholic with confidence issues and an inability to express his thoughts and emotions to friends, borderline trust issues, and potentially not knowing his place in this world. An extremely relatable character that we got to see grow, both on the screen and off of it. He found his purpose by having a child, and he found friends that truly had his best intentions at heart. And through it all, he became one of the best wrestlers in the company. This was our guy. This was AEW's guy. Chris Jericho was an old world journeyman. He had wrestled in WCW, ECW, WWE in Japan. Jon Moxley was a WWE guy, or at least that's where most of the audience watching AEW would know him from. And Kenny Omega was a New Japan Pro Wrestling guy. Hangman was truly the first AEW champion that was an AEW guy. And the story of his journey was so enthralling and captivating that you couldn't help feeling the emotions when he finally captured the AEW championship. The company had finally completed its first act. The first 4 champions were planned from the beginning, and the establishing of an AEW guy into an AEW champion was the finale of this stanza. Just before Hangman's reign, and evidently throughout it, AEW as a company and as a wrestling show was changing. As mentioned before, the company was signing a plethora of well-established names in order to bolster its shallow roster. Yes, AEW had some great young stars with a lot of potential, and the top of the card was well and truly solid. But beneath the top of the card, the company had a lot of work to do. I mean, just look at some of Cody Rhodes' early TNT title matches. Those are not mid-card wrestlers. Naturally, the influx of new talent would bolster that area. Signings like Miro, Andrade, Malachi Black, and Lance Archer would fill in the gaps in mid and upper mid card and strengthen the roster with some added depth. Then came the signings of Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, and CM Punk. Genuine top card main eventers. And then more depth signings and more potential main eventers and more exciting, new, fresh, talented names kept joining the roster. All of a sudden, it felt that AEW had more flavors than it could sell. It's inevitable that when so many brand new toys are added to your collection, the older ones, as much as you love them, just lose some of that shine. I believe that this mentality is similar to what happened to Hangman, and is partly the reason that his title reign felt so polarizing, and why so many would say it was underwhelming. Most people actually enjoy Hangman's in-ring work, and his promo, and his storytelling ability. I certainly do. I specifically appreciate the last point, his storytelling. I believe he's incredibly underrated when talking about body language and facial expressions. He's always trying to project or portray something through his body. So it's not as if his lack of talent or ability was the reason people didn't want to see him as champion. While part of it was certainly all the new talent that the company had acquired and that people were interested in, another part of it was something I foreshadowed earlier. This was the final part of the first act of AEW. And when I say that, I do mean it in the performance sense. Imagine AEW was a TV show. Hangman's capturing of the AEW title was very much the finale of season 1. Everything the company had done up until that point was building to this moment. And so for a fairly long time, we had all anticipated and accepted that Hangman's journey was leading to this moment. In many ways, the journey was more satisfying than the destination. We had invested so much time and emotion following the development and the growth of this character. We had been through the good times and the bad, and we had ridden every wave along with the hanger. We had fallen in love with the underdog and the chase, but we didn't know how to react once the underdog had turned into the top dog. The big dog, Roman Reigns! It was a different role for Hangman, and there weren't really any guarantees that it would work, that people would like this version of Adam Page. During his reign, other feuds overshadowed the world title. Specifically, CM Punk and MJF comes to mind, which Tony Khan probably should have paid more attention to and tried to avoid. But in addition, Hangman predominantly was defending his title against wrestlers that the crowd adored or wanted to see highlighted more. He successfully defended against the brand new signing of the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, the returning Lance Archer, a guy that people loved chanting along with, Adam Cole, and an up-and-coming young and exciting babyface who will be regarded as even more of an AEW guy than Hangman is, a truly homegrown talent in Dante Martin. I would argue the only match where a heavy majority of the crowd wanted to see Adam Page win was the Lance Archer match. But even then, I have memories of the crowd cheering Lance Archer as he attacked Hangman. The point is, he wasn't really given a fully fledged heel and face feud, and therefore, Hangman was never really a fully fledged babyface. Overall, Hangman's reign will probably be more so remembered as the platform that established the next chapter in AEW's book. Going back to my TV show reference, I think the beginning of Hangman's reign marked the beginning of season 2. This title reign ushered in a new era of AEW, the version of AEW that is not just WWE's noisy neighbor, but a genuine contender in the North American wrestling scene. An established company with some of the most recognizable names in wrestling today. An AEW that is expanding globally and that is continuously growing. And that thought process has been reinforced with the transition to CM Punk as AEW World Champion. Hangman's battle cry to defend AEW from CM Punk is probably an echo of how he feels internally. The AEW he knew and the AEW that he became a champion of is not the AEW that CM Punk is inheriting as champion and is the AEW that CM Punk will lead into the future. I'm sure there was a lot of truth in Hangman's fear of losing the company. I'm sure there is still fear from Hangman as to where the company is going. But in most industries, you must evolve or die. And that rule does not exclude AEW. The reasons why Hangman's reign was polarizing will differ depending on who you ask. Most people that enjoyed the reign will probably argue that there was nothing wrong with it, and that Hangman was a great champion. People that didn't like it at all will claim that he was a boring champion, and that none of his feuds were interesting. I fall somewhere in the middle. I'm sure the truth is somewhere in the middle too. I think CM Punk's crowning of AEW World Champion well and truly signifies a new era in AEW, and I do believe Hangman and the first 4 champions will go down in history regardless of what people think now. As I said, Hangman marked an important part of the company's time, and that was the transition of one era to the next. He will be AEW's heart and soul for a while. It's not like it's going to be difficult to reconnect him with the crowd in one way or another. I'm sure back in his role as a chaser, the crowd will embrace him again. I don't think that anyone ever had a problem with him. They just wanted to see something else. Personally, I'm not stressing about whether it was a good reign or not. I enjoyed parts of it and didn't enjoy others. That goes with anything on AEW television. It can't be perfect. One thing I'm fairly confident in is that this was not Hangman's last reign as AEW champion. I always pegged Jon Moxley as the first 2-time AEW champion, but it wouldn't surprise me if that honor goes to Adam Page instead. He will have multiple reigns, and stronger reigns. It's hard to see now, but in the future we will see it. Very rarely is a multiple-time champion's best reign the first one. I think we need to remember to exercise patience as much as we can. It's hard when you watch the show on a week-to-week basis to remember that when you look back, you won't remember every single heartbeat and every single match. You'll remember the big moments, Hangman beating Kenny, the time limit draw classic with Bryan Danielson, and of course now his match with CM Punk. My opinion on the reign is that it fulfilled what it needed. And again, I will continue my patience mentality and let the Hangman character redevelop. And in the meantime, I will enjoy AEW's second stanza, which is fully underway with CM Punk's title reign. It's been a while since I've done a script, so it actually felt pretty good to type this out. I feel like my thoughts are a little bit more well-worded and well thought out if I actually write them down. I don't take the time to reread my script, I just blurt out whatever I need to, but when it's written down, I have a different way of saying it. So I hope you guys enjoyed me going back to the scripts, and I hope you guys appreciate my take on Hangman Adam Page's first AEW title reign. A while ago, I did a poll asking what you guys were thinking of Hangman Adam Page's run, and I guess now I want to know what your opinions are that it's over. What did you think of the title reign as a whole, and how will you remember it? I guess there's only one way to find out, and that's to look back at it in a couple of years' time, but I genuinely think most people will look back and have sort of rose-tinted glasses towards it, and they'll remember the good stuff. I think most people will remember Hangman's first title reign fairly positively, even though during it and right now, I think it's pretty 50-50. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please leave a like on it as it does help out with the algorithm. And I hope you guys are happy and healthy. I'll see you guys in the next one soon. Peace.